The series premiere kicks off with this mysterious man, James Keziah Delaney. Starting on a ship just off the coast, the man makes the journey from water to land, where on his way into London, he makes a pit stop to bury a small bag. Once in the city, the burials continue, but this time it's an older man being prepared for his final resting place. During the funeral service, onlookers, including the man's daughter, Zilpha Geary, are paying their respects until in walks a ghost. "Dear God, there walks a dead man," is overheard upon Delaney's appearance. Mrs. Geary is especially spooked, considering Delaney's weird behavior and the fact that he's her brother. "They said you were dead," she confronts him. "I am," he ominously replies. As she leaves the wake, he grabs her, confessing that he still loves her, and it sure seems to be much more Jaime and Cersei Lannister sibling love than Ross and Monica Geller. Waiting outside for Delaney is his father's lawyer, Thóit. The man has good news and bad news. His mad father named him as his sole heir, but there are no riches, only a small strip of coastline on the other side of the world. "If America were a pig facing England, it's right at the pig's ass," he says, proving he would be a terrible real estate agent. "Just rocks and Indians." Despite proclaiming it useless and dangerous, Thóit offers to help Delaney sell it, an offer he walks away from. It's quickly clear why Thóit was so eager to help facilitate a deal. He's working with the East India Trading Company. A large contingent of the company has come together to get an update on Delaney and his claim on the land, Nootka Sound. One of them, Mr. Wilton, offers an entertaining and informative report for the men on Delaney's background. He was once a company boy, serving in Stuart Strange's regiment, and had a perfect record, until his troubles began in 1800. A few of his incidents included drunken experiments, fights with bears, and raving about hidden treasures, before disappearing in Africa, presumed dead aboard a sunken slave ship. If that wild backstory weren't enough, there are rumors of his whereabouts the last decade, which Strange really wants to know about. The Delaney Welcome Home tour continues as he returns to his actual childhood home. And he's greeted by something he hasn't seen in a while, somebody who is happy to see him. It's his family butler, Brace, who he shares an embrace and a drink. The reunion turns dark as Delaney reveals that he knows more of his father, mother, and the mysterious land than Brace assumed. It turns out Nootka is the name of his mother's tribe. His father bought both his wife and land from them in exchange for gunpowder. The night ends with Delaney having a troubling vision that is definitely not the result of too much brandy. In the morning, he does receive new information from Brace. Thóit has been attempting to buy Delaney's shipping company for years, a move that Delaney's father would always respond to by sending Horse S back. As a new offer arrives and being short of Horse S, Delaney resorts to throwing it in the fire. Setting off to check out the company's abandoned offices, Delaney finds another familiar face, someone who as a child touched his heart and other parts of his body. It turns out that prostitute Helga, who happened to take Delaney's virginity, has also taken over the building for her business. She tries to make a deal, whether it be financial, sexual, or by threat. "Please do not misunderstand the situation. You send me 12 men, I will return you 12 sets of testicles," he replies. This speech both makes me never want to cross Tom Hardy and makes Helga suddenly recall the man before her. "If I give you a girl, I will never see her again." To which he replies, "You heard right." As if he hadn't had enough reunions, Delaney is soon accosted by an old man who wants money. He's not just some beggar, it turns out that he's been raising Delaney's brother for 10 years. Being a man of his word, Delaney later delivers payment for past, present, and future. He does want to catch a glimpse of the boy, but shares that he never wants to see him again. "I'm not a fit man to be around children," he says as everyone at home nods along in agreement. While Delaney has been off catching up with prostitutes, butlers, and illegitimate brothers, his sister has been home attempting to write him a note. Her husband, Thorne, who is rightfully worried about what Delaney's sudden reappearance means to their claim on Nootka, has some rewrite ideas for the letter. He wants her to offer her half-brother £50 to relinquish his rights and leave the country, or he will kill him. "I'm tired of the empty threats you keep banding around," she says, verbally jabbing her husband. As Thorne storms off, Zilpha stares off, presumably thinking of her brother and still giving off those Lannister vibes. Suspecting foul play, Delaney digs his father up to have a doctor examine him. As the doctor does his work, Delaney begins having more troubling visions. This time, he rants and screams at the stiff bodies. "I have no fear for you and I have no guilt for you," he says to one body, which seems to rise from the dead. Thankfully, he was imagining that and the doctor has the results. Tests show that his father was given heavy doses of poison over a short time, something that would affect his mind. It's now time for Delaney to have one final reunion. He goes to the East India Company to meet with Strange and his cohorts. Not one for small talk, the man who has seemingly been nowhere to be found for a decade reveals that he knows more than he lets on. He knows that Nootka is a point of contention between enemy countries Britain and the United States and that whoever has the land also has Vancouver, which serves as the gateway to China. Offended by his lack of patriotism, the group attempts to make an offer to him, but like Thoit's letter earlier, Delaney has no use for it. "I studied your methods at your school, and I do know the evil you do because I was once part of it," he passionately states, not appreciative of the threats thrown his way. After the brash man storms out, Strange declares, "The son is as unstable as the father. Even though we never met the father, that sure is saying something." After a long day of catching up with old acquaintances, Delaney is greeted at home by a second letter from his dear sister, acknowledging that her earlier note was written under the supervision of her husband. She shares that she was grateful that he left England for both of their sakes. "I hope I can trust you to keep the secrets of the past buried," reads the letter as he burns it. "Buried in a deeper grave. Oh yeah, definitely a Lannister situation going on, and that probably includes the brother from earlier being more like a son. What did you think? Are you intrigued by the mysteries and Hardy's performance?" The episode 2 begins with Stuart Strange threatening to dismiss one of his many underlings. The only thing that can stop it is the death of Delaney. Well, that being said, he's sure to be unhappy with the latest happenings. Delaney returned to recover his buried bag of diamonds, which he immediately dug into to buy a Spanish ship in the name of the Delaney Nootka Trading Company. "That f***ing man will hang for treason," declares Wilton, echoing the feeling of his boss. Unsurprisingly, Strange continues to be frustrated by the situation. After breaking down Delaney's actions out loud, he has a theory on who is behind all of this. "The f***ing Americans," he exclaims. Seems unlikely that Matthew Rhys and Kerry Russell would be involved, but smart cross-programming. While Delaney may have gained a ship, he's lost a horse. Left in the place of his missing animal is a note that reads, "Atticus." He knows exactly what this means, tracking down this man for what appears to be a tense showdown. As crazy as Delaney is, even he should be scared of Atticus. Not only is he played by Stephen Graham, aka Boardwalk Empire's Al Capone, but Atticus is also sporting a bald head covered in tattoos, blood on his face, dirty teeth, and a butcher knife. Thankfully for everyone involved, the two appear to be more friends than rivals, so no fight, just a sit down. Plus, it's been too long since Delaney had a reunion. Delaney is worried about recovering his horse, while Atticus is much more curious about the largest and smallest thing that Delaney saw in Africa. "Human kindness," he replies, before changing to a more literal answer of an ant. In the least shocking news ever, turns out that Atticus is the person that people go to when they want someone killed. And such an occasion took place last year when a man wanted Delaney's father dead. Apparently, having a heart of gold, Atticus sent them away. Despite the perceived favor, Delaney wants something else from this scary man, to be his eyes and ears. "Well, the enemies you're staring at, James, you'll be needing them, old boy. If we didn't already have enough of our favorite British TV actors on Taboo, Sherlock's Mark Gatiss shows up and looks as if he brought his Mycroft Holmes fat suit with him. He's playing the feisty and overweight Prince Regent, who gets a visit from Solomon Co-op. The prince is unhappy for many reasons. The first is that the maps of the blockade of trading ships feature the US in red, which he sees as ironic considering they are the ones who wear red. More pressing are his issues with the rival country. "I have run out of f***ing patience," he screams. He wants their ships sunk and survivors hung. This all caught Coop off guard, considering that he came to discuss the East India Company. "F them as well," barks the prince. "I intend to," replies Coop with a smirk. Even though we're only 2 episodes into Taboo, Delaney has accrued quite the list of enemies, making his decision to take a late-night stroll on a cloudy, creepy night that much more daring. Lucky for him, The only person following him turns out to be Winter, a young girl who lives with Helga and the prostitutes. She warns him that Helga has hired a man to kill him. The girl agrees to take Delaney out to the Silver-Tooth Man's boat, which seems like a very trusting move on both of their parts. Once within a reasonable distance of the ship, Delaney jumps into the water to swim aboard. After sneaking around, he finds no one and sets the ship ablaze. Returning to the boat, he discovers that the girl is gone. So it begs the question, are we dealing with a ghost girl situation? The next day, Delaney goes looking for Helga and interrupts one of her sessions. Considering the frequency with which he has visions, he rightfully wants to know if Winter is real. She denies knowing such a girl, insisting she wished she did because her Danish customers would love it. I'm smelling a little, will they or won't they vibe to these two, a possibility that only gets amplified when he takes off her wig and says, I like to see what lies beneath. You have goodness in you. After staring into her eyes, he concludes that Winter is her daughter, a theory that Helga doesn't deny. He wants to know where the silver-toothed man is and attempts to recruit her like he did Atticus. Continuing his streak of strange and unsettling nights, Delaney heads to inspect his new ship. He does what any new owner would do, looks around, tests the chains, has a breakdown, gets naked, spends the night chained up, and has flashbacks to a sunken slave ship. Nothing out of the usual for Delaney. Once he's done with that, he decides to handle a more important matter, finding out who is trying to kill him. His investigation begins with Dr. Dumbarton. Dumbarton is no ordinary doctor, he's an American spy if Delaney and his secret code is to be believed. Delaney has a small request, a sit-down with the US president. The doctor is rightfully skeptical of the man before him, pulling a gun and ordering him to leave. You're mad to have even come here, he says, clearly not knowing how mad he really is. We're an angry nation. To which Delaney responds, I'm counting on it. Delaney's day of errands continues with a stop at Thoit's office. It's time for the reading of his father's will. For about the 50th time, Thoit asks about Nootka, with Delaney informing him that he intends to use it for trading, but unfortunately, his recently purchased ship was once used to carry slaves by the East India Company, whom Thoit reports to. You are their whore, Delaney says. The same as almost everyone else in this city, apart from those who are actually labeled a whore. Also present for the will reading are Zilpha, her bitter husband, and a large group of angry creditors. It's official, Horace Delaney left all of his assets to his son and nothing to his daughter, a move that gets Geary quite heated. Be sure of this, Delaney, that legacy is your death sentence, he threatens before storming out. Atticus later confirms to Delaney that Geary was the man who came wanting to have his father murdered. Even though he doesn't inherit his father's debts, Delaney dumps out the exact amount that his old man owed. As a line for payment forms, a young lady approaches, claiming that what she deserves isn't on the table. He owed me all that is due from a husband to a wife, she announces, revealing that her name is Lorna Delaney, previously Lorna Bow, a name that Delaney recalls from a playbill that he had found at his father's home. The mysterious actress has a document that proves she was married to the elder Delaney 2 years earlier in Ireland. Rightfully suspicious, Thoit and Delaney pepper her with questions, in particular about the man's fragile mental state. Love is a kind of madness, she responds. While this matter gets sorted out, Thoit recommends that the two stay away from each other. Well, I have no love for the theater, cracks Delaney. And I spend very little time in German brothels, she quips. I think we've got some chemistry here. For a strange man, Delaney sure seems to vibe with a lot of women, even if they are his sister, a prostitute, and his stepmother. Speaking of his appeal to women, Delaney decides to take a night out at a concert. No, he's not shockingly a fan of music, instead, he's there to see his sister. Not one for a scene, she heads outside for a one-on-one. He continues to express his feelings, admitting that he missed her. You used to straighten your skirts and march away like nothing happened, he says. Who marched away? She asks. And thank God you did. Clearly disturbed by the rumors, she wants to know if he really ate flesh. He agrees to tell her everything if she leaves with him, a request she doesn't accept. On his way home, a woman is following Delaney. Could it be that Zilpha changed her mind? Nope, definitely isn't, as Delaney and the woman walk by and stab each other. Gutting them with a blade wasn't enough for Delaney, who then took a bite out of their neck. Turns out that it wasn't a woman, it was the illustrious Silver-Tooth Man. Delaney may have finally killed him, but he hasn't gotten out unscathed. He falls to the ground with a blade stuck in him. As he bleeds out and has flashbacks to Africa, he passes out alone on the dark street. What did you think? Did Delaney die? Thank you for joining us on this journey. And I hope you enjoyed the episodes of Taboo.